Live here on WPGU 107.1. You got the TNT, the Tuesday and Thursday crew with Isaac Trotter, Eli Schuster, Alex Aguilera, the producer, and I'm Luke Sciaccotta. We have a very fun show for you today. We got Illini basketball, we got college football, and we are going to have our roundtable segment at the very end of the show. You can follow us on the many social media platforms we are on: Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, all of which are at Illini Drive. So, guys, let's get started with some Illinois basketball. It was an interesting game against Wake Forest, a very close game. Isaac, what are your first impressions when we talk about this game?
As a fan, as a reporter watching this game, it felt a little eerily similar to what I've seen before from Illinois basketball. It felt like a game that Illinois could have won, had many opportunities to win, and just didn't make the plays down the stretch and get that done. And looking back, I hope that on Selection Sunday this isn't a game that we look back on and go, gosh, it would be really nice if we could have that one win against Wake Forest. But with the way that this team looks and with the way the scheduling looks, I think that this might be a game where we look back on Selection Sunday, and if Illinois doesn't make the tournament, this might be a really big reason why. And I think that that's a tough thing to see. But I was encouraged by some things. I think their grit is very obvious. And that is something that John Gross did have. But I think that Underwood's teams are a little bit more focused with their effort. And they're not quite as wild and all over the place like Gross's teams were.
Yeah.
And, I mean, just the play from Aaron Jordan was just fantastic again. He leading the nation in three-point shooting. And I love him off the bench, but I think that there could be a really big case for him to come into the starting lineup for Mark Allstork and start to play starters minutes.
Yeah, the first half of the game was a little weird, Eli. Illinois shot 37% from the field, but they shot 35% from three. So you would think that, when I see those two stats, I'm thinking to myself, okay, you shot the three ball very well, obviously, but when overall with your field goal percentage, how does that happen? Wake Forest's own defense was playing pretty well. Granted, I'll grant them that, but is this a little weird?
No, it was a weird game all around. If you want to lump the officiating into that too, it was weird. It was a very weird game. But
early fouls for Lucas and Finke. It was just
They were.
And then that one play you had showed me.
Yeah,
the other day, that was
the
bizarre.
refs. The refs just seemed very trigger happy. I don't know what it was about, but. There were a lot of plays, and we can get into I think it'd be worth talking about the one, ended up being like a 5-point play, basically.
6-point play.
6 point, yeah. But when the thing I thought about the game really was just that they played well, and if you brought up the first half, honestly, I think they looked the best that they have in the first half of that game. Yeah. In the first half of that game in spurts, they looked really, really nice, and I think everything was coming together. They were moving the fastest I've ever seen them, for sure. They were scoring actually in the 7 seconds that they are supposed to be scoring under Brad Underwood, and everything seemed to be clicking. But the issue that I thought, if you take the officiating out of it, because that's what a lot of people kind of bring this loss to, is people are putting it, I think, a little too much on the officiating, because yes, there were still things they did wrong. And the thing that I think really came and hurt Illinois in this game was they were too streaky. And the issue was that they had times where they were looking great, but they had one too many scoring droughts. And I would say they had a solid 3 scoring droughts in there that really, really cost them this game. And it came back to hurt them in the end. And Isaac, you said that this could be a game they look back on, and it hurts. And in these 3 games they have this week, this was the one that I thought they'd win, and the next 2 I don't know about. And now I think it's possible they don't win either of the next 2, because this Maryland game on Sunday I think is going to be difficult. And then this Northwestern game, there's 8-point underdog right now, 7 to 8-point underdog.
You're playing against a completely different team. Northwestern's a veteran guard-laden team. Illinois is a very, very young team. They have a little bit more front court talent. I think I agree with everything that you just said there. But honestly, the defense gave me a little bit of headache as I watched the game.
Yeah.
We gave up way too many dribble drive. We could not guard them man to man, and that forced us to go into a zone, which then allowed Wake Forest to knock down some extra threes and gave them some really good looks from three.
They do not look good against the zone.
No.
Okay.
Well,
I disagree with you to a certain extent, because I do think they didn't play well against the zone, and they had a couple too many turnovers against the zone. But they were, like Underwood said today, I think that they were in like the elbow and the short corner was where a lot of their turnovers were, which is what he wants. And I completely agree with you, because against a zone like that, those 2 spots are the area where you're going to do most damage. And I think that those little things will improve as you go on because this group has never played Brad Underwood's zone offense. They're going to get a little bit more cohesive as they move forward. So I'm not necessarily worried about the zone offense.
Well, I'm not worried about it for the
much.
future, but I mean, in this game, they didn't look like they were prepared for it.
Well, there was a lot of, especially at the very end of the game, there was a lot of trading back and forth with threes between these two teams, and I actually really enjoyed seeing that LeBron Black, he went on, what was it, a 6-0 run? I think it was a 6-0, wasn't it?
Yeah.
6-0 with 8.5 minutes left, I think. Something like that. But then Wake Forest responded. I think they
Wake
had
Forest
an 8-0
had a response
run.
for every single
They had a
one.
response for everything. When Illinois looked like they were about to go on a big run, whether it was by Black or
Aaron Jordan.
Yeah, Aaron Jordan, Wake Forest just said, no, we're just going to take this game over from you, and you're not going to get back into this game. I think that, I mean, I don't know how I would feel going forward against Northwestern, because Northwestern has been streaky lately, too, especially when they face off against
The
Texas
only reason
Tech.
I actually don't feel... Because, all right, realistically, this Northwestern game, they should win, meaning Illinois. I do think Illinois should win this Northwestern game. But the reason I have a feeling it's not going to happen is because, honestly, it just seems like a very Illinois move to go to your rival, go to Northwestern earlier in the season. After Northwestern, by the way, lost to Georgia Tech.
Is that rational, though?
Hang on, they lost to Georgia Tech on a buzzer beater, right? Northwestern lost their last game to Georgia Tech on a buzzer beater. It was a buzzer beater layup, completely blown defense from Northwestern's part. But now they're going home, and not just going home. They're going home to the All-State Arena, where they're going to be playing Illinois at home early in the season. They're rivals. Illinois is coming off a loss. Northwestern's 4-3, definitely not where they want to be. Illinois is 6-1. This just feels like a game that Illinois is not going to take. To me, it feels like a game is going to be close, and then Northwestern's going to end up walking away with it.
I don't know, Isaac. I think Eli probably raises a point that would be valid maybe last year. But when I look at this Northwestern team, I just can't get over the loss to Texas Tech. They look so bad in that game. I saw a little bit of that, and I was thinking to myself, this team does not look like a tournament team to me.
That was one loss, though. I mean,
It was one
the
loss. I'm
Georgia
just saying
Tech
that
game
it
was
looked
very close.
so terrible.
But it shouldn't have been as close as it was.
Texas Tech is also an extremely skilled basketball team.
Yeah, no, but
And
the way
they
the
have
way
a
the
chance to
Wildcats
make it.
lost to them was not good. It was just really
I
bad.
mean, you can't. What was it, like a 40-point loss? I'm sorry, I can't
85
ever
to
swing a
49?
40-point loss
49,
into
yeah.
some sort of positive. I agree. I completely
No,
agree
yeah.
with you. I completely agree with you. But I do think that this Northwestern team, they have holes. They definitely have holes. But at the end of the day, they also have three guards who are better than any player that Illinois has played against this year, including the entire Wake Forest team. Okay, Bryant McIntosh is a stud.
Yep.
Vic Law is a stud. Scotty Lindsey is a stud.
When McIntosh goes, they go.
Well, that's not actually true because that
Right,
Georgia Tech
right.
game, McIntosh
Well,
win,
yeah,
and Vic Law and Lindsey did not show up.
Right. But Illinois matches up very well with this Northwestern team. Very, very well. Because Northwestern doesn't have a ton
And we've talked about that, yeah.
They don't have a ton
They
of
have.
size inside, which goes well with Illinois. And we saw what Illinois did against a 7'1" center. They struggled a little bit with that. Their guards match up well. Tijon Lucas is going to be able to lock down on McIntosh, I think, if he
I
can
agree
stay
with
out of
that.
foul trouble. And our wings are just as long and as athletic as they are.
But are the experience of the guards that Northwestern
Right.
has going to trump the experience
I was
that is
thinking.
had
I was
from
thinking that too
Illinois?
because when you
And-
have that going,
And McIntosh is the best player on the floor. That says a lot.
I want
That
to.
says a whole lot.
I want to read these Big Ten standings. Minnesota is 7-1. Illinois 6-1.
I'm just saying I called that Minnesota team being really good in our
You
Big
did.
Ten preview.
Yeah, you
Good for you.
They were ranked, so let's not go crazy.
Jordan Murphy, straight up stud.
Rutgers is now 6-1. Michigan State 5-1, and I'll go all the way down to the second worst in the conference is Northwestern at 4-3. Obviously, it's extremely early in the year, but I just look at these standings. And I'm thinking to myself, last year I would have thought you were absolutely crazy if you told me that these would be the standings through 7-8 games, where Illinois is second in the conference.
Well, I mean,
I'm just saying that when I look at this, it's weird to me.
no, it's
I don't
completely
understand.
weird because honestly, the Big Ten just doesn't look as strong as
Muddled
they
mess.
should be.
Yeah.
No, and I think a lot of people are talking about right now is how the Big Ten in general is just not a good conference this year. They're just not going to be a good conference. But that's not true because, I mean, I think when Big Ten play comes around and everything, and also this is, again, we said it's very early in the season, the Big Ten, there will be those teams in the Big Ten that start to step up, and you'll start seeing them play better. And I think a team that, for example, is going to be Northwestern. I do think Northwestern will start playing a lot better than they are. You can't have those guys that we've named. You can't have the McIntosh, you can't have Law, you can't have Lindsey, and not play well. I mean, the only tough thing for them is those are their guys. Yeah, those are who they have. The depth, exactly. Those are the guys they have. That's the issue. But those guys, you're going to still be a solid team in the Big Ten when you have those guys to lean on. And other teams should start stepping up a little bit. I mean, Rutgers is really good right now, and that's not going to stay.
Rutgers also hasn't played anybody.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, so things are going to shift so much. Rutgers is going to go back down to being Rutgers.
And like Purdue got crushed after their horrible showing in that tournament, and then goes out and destroys Louisville last night.
So there's going to be a lot that changes, and that's still true. And that's true with Illinois. There's going to be a lot that changes. And so they lost to Wake Forest, and Isaac and I remember we were texting during the game, and we brought up like the Winthrop, right? I kind of brought up, I was like, I feel like this is a little similar to what a Winthrop loss could look like for last year's team. And Isaac brought up a good point where he said, I don't agree with that because we're and I ended up agreeing with you too. Is this loss is not like the Winthrop one necessarily because this is against an ACC team, a Wake Forest team that should not be too bad in the stretch, and you're not going to look at this when come tournament time like, oh, that's a really, really bad loss.
And it was on the road.
Exactly. It is a big game. You're playing an ACC team, and that's a big-time school.
On the road against an ACC team is a completely different game than a home game against a non-Power 5 school.
And it's no time to panic. I think if you want to panic, the only time that I would start panicking about a little bit or start worrying, honestly, is if they're 6-3 by the end of this week.
If they're 6-3 after this week, I'm in a legit panic.
Yeah. I think there's no way. I think you can
rule.
And Isaac and I were texting about this, too. I think you can rule tournament out, to be honest. If you're 6-3, if you're 6-3, it's going to be tough
because the quality wins left on the schedule.
They're just not there. They wouldn't be
I'd
there.
I'd say that Minnesota is a quality win. I say you have a Michigan State game that could be considered a quality win. Purdue, I think you played Michigan State twice this year.
They do.
So Purdue and Michigan State, and then after that, you're talking
and you're not beating Michigan State.
You're definitely not beating.
No, you're definitely not.
Purdue, I don't know. Purdue,
I don't know
you cannot. You don't have anyone big enough.
I think Illinois is going to beat Purdue. I honestly don't think. I think Minnesota is a really bad matchup for us.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, I agree with you.
Really bad matchup.
And if Northwestern or Maryland, I think are two teams that if you do beat them, let's say you win these next two, you're getting a lot.
You're sitting pretty.
Well, yeah, you're sitting pretty, and also I think a lot of people are starting to look at you. I think eyes are going your way. Not saying they're going to be like this ranked team, but people are going to start looking at Illinois like, this team actually might be a legit, top team in the Big Ten.
This segment of Illini Drive on WPGU 107.1 is brought to you by the Illinois Fighting Illini. For tickets and information on the Illini, visit fightingillini.com or call 1-866-Illini-1. Again, fightingillini.com or call 1-866-Illini-1 for more ticket information.
I think the thing with Illinois, too, is that when you look at the schedule that they have, there's an easy path to 10 Big Ten wins, 10 or 11 Big Ten wins, which I think, listen to the 7-game stretch that we had during the middle of the thing. Indiana, Rutgers, Ohio State, Wisconsin, who's looked awful, Penn State, Indiana again, and then Nebraska. I think that there is a case could be made that you can go 6-1 or 7-0 in those games.
Yeah, I think that they could definitely go 7-0 with those games. Absolutely.
And then you'd still have a game against Nebraska, Rutgers, and Iowa still on the schedule.
And Iowa's.
And Iowa, Nebraska, and Rutgers are the worst three teams in the Big Ten.
They're trash. Yeah. They really are.
So those are 10 right there, and you're not even counting those other toss-up games with Michigan. You're not counting a toss-up game with like Nebraska.
I think a toss-up game too is going to be. They play Indiana twice. One of those is going to be a toss-up, to be honest, because Indiana held Duke pretty close last night, and I think Indiana's going to be a little bit better of a team when the season continues.
Right.
Here's my question: How many quality games would you say that are on that schedule? You have Minnesota, you got Michigan State, you got
twice,
Northwestern,
I say Northwestern,
Maryland.
Purdue.
Would Maryland be one?
I think you could. I think it wouldn't be a stretch to say UNLV because they've looked all right early in the year. I think that if Missouri continues what they're doing, even without,
so that's around 6 or 5 or 6, right? 5 or 6 quality games.
There's more than that. I'm just saying, because then I haven't even counted Maryland. Northwestern's a quality game. Another game against Michigan. Michigan is. I know they got destroyed last night by North Carolina, but
So here's my question: How many of those games does Illinois need to win in order to get into the tournament?
All of them vote too.
What?
Well, did you say Michigan State's a quality one?
Yeah.
Well, I think Michigan State's a great.
Of course, it depends
on
not
a quality one. I would say. Of
course, it depends on who's
win.
it against. But if we're just talking about quantity right now over quality, How many should they?
I think if
they win to
if
get in?
Illinois goes 10-8 in the Big Ten without any of those big quality wins, like I said, like I just named the 7-game stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Say they sneak out 2 wins against Indiana, then they beat Iowa, Rutgers, and Nebraska second time. So that's 10-8 in the Big Ten, and then you're talking about a non-conference schedule where I think that New Mexico State's a team that Illinois should beat.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Missouri without Michael Porter Jr. is a team that Illinois could beat. And I think that if they could beat UNLV, you're talking about would that be a 12-1 thing?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So 12-1, you're talking 12-1, 10-8 in the Big Ten without any of those like big wins, like you didn't upset
So you had
anybody.
22-9 record
so you're
at that point.
22-9 going into the Big Ten tournament. I think that it'd be very hard for a 22-9 Big Ten team to be taken out of the thing. But if it was, people would go back to who's your best win, and at that point on the schedule, your best win's probably an Indiana, a Missouri, maybe Wisconsin.
And that's where the rubber meets the road. And I think it leads to another question I have for everyone here: is how many Big Ten teams are going to be represented? In the top, let's say the top 25, not so much the tournament, but the top 25.
Oh, the top 20
As of now?
Oh, top 25.
As of now, because currently there's only one.
Yeah, well, Purdue will be back in.
Okay.
Isn't Minnesota ranked?
Yeah,
They're the only one that's
Michigan
ranked
State.
right now.
Michigan
yeah.
State's ranked.
Or I'm sorry, Michigan. I forgot about that. I
They're
don't know
actually
why.
playing Notre Dame right now.
So you got 2 Big Ten teams in the top 25 currently in Michigan State.
So your
Minnesota.
max is going to be 4.
I'd say there's a strong case for 3, and I don't know. Maryland, maybe. Maryland lost to a very
I
good
don't think-
Syracuse
I
team,
don't-
but I don't think they can get in.
I don't think Maryland's going to beat it. But I'm just saying, I think the only reason I'm saying 4 is because I think somebody will end up in it. I just don't know who.
Who's the fourth one? Do you think
No,
it's
I have
Illinois,
no idea.
or you just don't
Dude,
know? Okay.
If the only way that Illinois can get there is if,
I don't think they're going to get
the
there.
only way
but-
that Illinois gets there is they
2 wins
beat
this weekend.
Northwestern, Maryland, and then you'd have those easy the non-conference games, and then they'll take it after like 3 of those that they pick up, they might be ranked for
Sitting
a little
at
bit.
11-1.
Yeah,
Because we
If they're
also
si- if
have to
they're
keep
si-
in mind how those teams are going to look as the season
I think
progresses.
the only
if
way
they were to
Illinois is
lose.
ranked this season at all, I think is going to be if you win against Northwestern and Maryland, and I think if you do that, and then you go on to win those non-conference games, you should, because we're assuming they win those, and like you said, you're 11-1. I mean, even maybe around like 10-1, whatever you are, they could squeeze into the 20s, and that might be the only place that, and then they'll leave once Big Ten, I think, season starts. But that fourth team, I think there could be a fourth Big Ten one. I just don't know who because it's so early. But the 3, Purdue, Michigan State, and Minnesota should be ranked for the entirety of the season. Purdue isn't right now, but they'll be back in.
Eli, you're saying some very interesting things where I just a fourth Big Ten team in the top 25. I don't know. That's I'm trying to think of who else would be able to get in there other than, of course, Minnesota, Michigan State, Purdue.
I think
I don't know. I'm just trying to think of that fourth team.
For next week's rankings.
No. Just like as the season
He's just
goes
talking about
on.
as the season goes
Oh,
on.
Yeah,
God,
as the season goes on.
Michigan is a very, very good team. Michigan for stretches last night was hanging with North Carolina until the very end when they just absolutely crushed them. But Mo Wagner is a legit Player of the Year candidate at Michigan. They also have the transfer from Kentucky who's been balling earlier this year.
And I just haven't seen enough from Michigan, to be honest. That's why
I haven't either.
I haven't watched enough of them. But
Yeah.
I think that, you're right. I think, but I do think that in the top 25, if you're going to name, how many Big Ten teams can end up there, I do still put the max on 4. I
Yeah.
think, and the fourth would be Michigan.
Yeah.
We got into how could Illinois end up there, and I think Illinois ends up in it. The only time Illinois would end up in it is if they're that 11-1, and then it'd be tough for them to stay in it.
Yeah, I would say the only way that they would get into the top 25 is if they only lose 2 of those 6-7 quality games.
I don't know.
I don't
Guys,
know.
did you see what Maryland did against Syracuse? Syracuse is a top 6 seed in the NCAA tournament if today started right now. Like they are
really early though.
They're very.
It is really early. That's
Anthony Cohen is a very good point guard. Herter, the shooter, the white kid that can shoot from about 35 feet, is a great player.
So who would you take right now? Let's say that Eli's right and that 4 Big Ten teams make the top 25. Who would you take right now then? Because you also said Michigan.
I would take Maryland over Michigan.
Okay. All right.
I think that their guard plays a little better than Michigan's right now, just because the point guard at Michigan right now is struggling a little bit. He's only a sophomore, but it's fine.
What's Maryland at? What's the record right now?
I don't have that.
They
off the top
are
of my head.
6-2 overall.
Okay, so you have
You have
Maryland,
like a lot of 6-2
You have
teams
Maryland
in
at
the Big
6-2.
Ten right
Obviously,
now.
no one's
They're gonna
started
play
conference
Purdue.
play yet, but
Right,
yeah.
but
right?
Yeah.
Maryland's going to play Purdue tomorrow. They're going to lose.
He was saying
6
in
and
the
3.
season.
No, yeah, I know. I'm just looking at their schedule right now, thinking, how's it going to go
What are their other big wins though? Aren't they?
this season so far?
Yeah.
I mean, none.
I don't think
They don't have any.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They don't have any.
nobody
Syracuse is the
really
only
has
one.
any at this point.
I couldn't remember who beat VCU earlier this year. If that was
No, it wasn't them. They beat Butler, but Butler's not. I mean,
Butler's what?
Butler's not anything good this year. Not anything specials right now.
Okay,
This year.
special's better. Good
Yeah.
is not the right word.
Right.
I mean, I still wouldn't classify that right now as a super quality win. Syracuse is. That would be the one they have. And then they play Purdue, and I think they'll lose to Purdue, and they could be 6-3. Mm-hmm. And then they play Illinois, which right now I have as I'm not sure.
I
I
don't
lean
think
towards
Illinois can
Maryland,
beat
but I don't know
them right
yet. And then after, I mean, they have a pretty easy schedule.
It's just funny looking at the Big Ten, where this conference may not be a top conference in in all of college basketball, but it's still very, very competitive. And that's what I always like, is when even if a conference is not like a conference or a division is really not that good,
World beaters.
yeah, not the world beaters, but as long as there's competition going on, it always makes it fun. At least that's how I feel. I don't know how anyone else.
But I also think a lot of people are down. Like we talk about it as if we're down on the Big Ten. I do think this conference is going to look better as the year goes on. I mean, it's going to be hard. It's the Big Ten. I think teams will start looking a lot better as the year stretches on, and Illinois is included in that.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be looking a lot better, and I mean, you're going to see Michigan look really good, and I do think you could see Illinois look really good. I don't really know there right now, but I mean, you could see Indiana kind of put things together. It's possible. There's a lot of teams there that could look good. That's just not the hottest start.
The thing is like we talked about earlier, it's very top heavy, right? We have three teams that are probably we talked about them early. Minnesota, Michigan State, and Purdue were probably the top 3 teams. And then there's that opening at 4 where there's a lot of teams that could come through. And from an Illinois perspective, I think that you see that as an open door. You were picked 12th in the Big Ten this year.
Yeah.
I think that it would be
Not
an arguably. I think it would not be out of the realm of possibility that Illinois finishes 6th in the Big Ten. I don't think that that's a problem. I would say that Michigan, Maryland, Michigan State, Purdue, and Minnesota. You could really argue that they're ahead of them, and no one else so far has shown me anything. Remember, Indiana got crushed by Indiana State.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's,
Wisconsin is awful when Ethan Happ isn't on the floor.
Yeah.
And he's their only player. There are
right now they're last.
Yeah.
So.
There's just a lot of. There's a lot. Iowa is terrible. Nebraska is not very good. Rutgers is not very.
I was
good.
always shocked by the 12th. By Illinois being placed 12th.
Oh,
to be honest.
Underwood
So was I.
by
Weren't we?
12.
Didn't we discuss that?
I'm sure
where
we did.
all of us
I was
were
always
like, what
surprised by it. I
is
was like,
going
this
on?
is a top. I mean, we talked. I think we did because we talked about it, and I was like, no, this is a top. I think I said it was a top 6.
Oh, I didn't say
6,
that.
7 team. I said no, not you. I said I think I said
Yeah.
that they could be a top 6, 7 team.
My original thought was I thought them maybe like 9th
Yeah, I thought that they would get like maybe
or 10th.
yeah, like be like a 6, 7, 8 games over 500.
Even with the loss to Wake Forest, though, I still saw some things that really excite me going forward in the future because I know that Michael Finke's not going to have a 2-point game every single night. I know that Tijon Lucas isn't going to be in foul trouble every single night.
And Mark Smith should look better.
And Mark Smith is definitely going to have better nights.
He will.
Yeah.
Just gotta give him time. Give him time.
Yeah, give him time. It's still going to be a very interesting season for the Big Ten, and Illinois is definitely going to be a part of that. But we'll take our first time out. When we come back, we'll discuss some college football. Alex and I discussed a lot of it on Tuesday. I want to hear what you guys think of the new rankings, Eli and Isaac, and what is really going to happen with these championship games. What are we going to be saying on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday when we get back on these airwaves? So all that's coming up next on Illini Drive, WPGU 107.1. Drive here on WPGU 107.1. So, guys, we have championship games going on this weekend for college football. Most notable ones are Stanford, USC in the Pac-12. Who cares?
What?
What? I mean, compared to the other
Big
ones?
game.
If Wisconsin loses, you could make a case that USC could make it in.
Really?
I'm dead serious. I am dead serious.
Over Ohio State?
Over Ohio State. But we'll get that.
We'll get to that.
later.
Wow, I really have to hear that one. TCU against Oklahoma. You got Georgia against Auburn for the SEC. You got Miami and Clemson, and as we just said, Ohio State versus Wisconsin. Which one are you guys looking forward to the most?
Clemson, Miami, because I think that's a play-in game.
Oh, it is.
Well, take that back because Miami just lost again.
Oh,
So
wait.
it's not a play-in
I
game.
forgot that they lost.
Okay,
Right.
Big
it was
Ten.
before that.
Then the Big Ten won. Wisconsin, Ohio State, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think because the way it is
Well, is it a play-in game for Clemson?
no, the Clemson. I don't think for Clemson.
Because if they lose to Miami, I mean,
If they lose to Miami, they're out.
yeah, if they lose to Miami, I think they're out, and so it's essentially a play-in game for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I give them that game though, but I don't know. It's tough. But what I was going to say originally was the Wisconsin and Ohio State game. That's I think a playing game for Wisconsin, but not Ohio State necessarily because Ohio State wins. I don't
There needs
think
to be a lot that
yeah,
needs to go
there
their
needs
way.
a lot that needs to happen for them to get in. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. One thing I do want to point out though was that I called the last time I was on the show that Auburn would be in the that Auburn would be in the
Yes,
college
you
football
did.
playoffs, and they could end up in that number two.
Show off.
No, they could end up in that number 2 spot. So
Yes, he did.
so it's fun. Thank you for that. But yeah, no, I think that this Wisconsin Ohio State game is probably going to be one of the most interesting to watch this weekend. Although it could end up being a blowout of some kind. Who
Yeah.
knows? Like we really don't know. I think Ohio State could blow out Wisconsin
Yes.
because Wisconsin has not really played that great of a team this year.
Alex, what about you? Which game are you looking forward to the most?
Man, I don't know. I'll probably say I honestly don't know. All of them look good, to be honest.
Well, of course.
All of them look great. Yeah, I'll probably say though that Wisconsin Ohio State game. Just that the fact that I think it'll be a big test for Wisconsin. If they do win that game, then for me, that shows me that they are legit and that they do deserve to be in that top 4. If they don't, then that's just going to be a huge shakeup.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Georgia and Auburn because I think
I was just about
that
to say that one too. That
because
could
I
be-
think that's essentially a play-in game. Because
Oh yeah,
here's-
if Auburn loses,
if Auburn loses, they're
they're
done.
done.
And I think
You
that
could honestly make a case for Georgia if they win that game that they have a strong case to possibly be in that top 4.
absolutely, I think that this is the game that has like the most play-in potential, if I could make up a phrase there. Because if Georgia beats Auburn when Auburn beats arguably the most talented team in the country in Alabama, then I would say that they could jump up 2 spots and take over Auburn at number 4 for the final playoff spot. So that's the one I'm looking forward to the most. But yeah, Isaac, you said that if USC wins and Wisconsin loses, you can make a case that USC could get into the top 4?
Yes, because their schedule has been, it's solid. They played against a good Arizona team. They battled against UCLA. They lost to Notre Dame, a tough loss to Notre Dame. They beat Utah. They're 10-2. They lost. Who else did they beat? They beat Texas. They would have beaten Stanford twice because they have to play Stanford in the championship game. And the committee's always been big on putting championships teams into the playoff. The argument that you could have is that Ohio State with 2 losses, say they beat Wisconsin, Ohio State drops down, right? And is Ohio State's drubbing by Iowa a worse loss than USC's drubbing by Notre Dame?
Yeah.
Who's we've seen as a very, very good football team. And then with Alabama, Alabama's strength of schedule is not very good. And they didn't take care of business against Auburn, which was the best team that they played all season. It's a real case that USC could make it. I don't think it will, though.
Well, what if TCU defeats Oklahoma? I don't think that's going to happen, but what if that happens?
I feel like for Oklahoma, they have like the safest bet.
Seeing the fact that I
Yeah,
think
they're the
Oklahoma's the best
they're
football
probably like
team
the
in the
safe-
country, I think
The
it's going
safe
to be
bet
really
that they're
hard.
in.
Yeah, I'm just trying to point the scenario of where let's say for argument's sake, the TCU just narrowly beats the Sooners. Wouldn't they be a much better candidate to get up into the top 4 over USC if the scenario that you pointed out happens?
Well, yes.
I understand I'm adding a caveat to this, but I mean,
They do only have 1 loss, but again, strength of schedule, or they would have only have 2 losses. But the strength of schedule thing kind of worries me a little bit with Texas or with TCU, because outside of their championship win against Oklahoma, what's another good win for them? it would be probably a 44-31 victory at Oklahoma State.
I think we're
early in
getting
the
pretty
year.
extravagant, to be honest. I don't think
Yeah.
TCU is going to
Well,
end up in there.
Well, this is what this.
Regardless, we don't even think they're going to beat Oklahoma to begin
No,
with.
Well,
this is-
yeah, but
I think what we're looking at right now is Clemson is probably going to take advantage of Miami. I think they're in.
Well, I mean, something I wanted to ask about that too, kind of, was what do we think? So we talk about what we think the best game might be, right? Or what the best championship game would be. But what's the best conference? I think the best conference is the ACC.
Expound on that for me.
Well, I would say, looking at the teams that are in the championship and looking at, like who we have playing, right? Ohio State, Wisconsin could be one of the most fun games to watch potentially. Could have like a lot of stakes or whatever. But I think Clemson and Miami, right, are two very good teams.
Yeah.
And both would beat an Ohio State or Wisconsin potentially, right? If they played, and this is just a theoretical situation. And so I'm just bringing up which conference has the better teams and which conference has.
you would take the ACC over the SEC.
Oh my gosh, Eli.
Wait, me or Luke?
Or, I mean, Eli
What?
and Luke. Yeah. Oh
What's my name?
Luke. I
no,
was
I'm
looking
just-
at Eli when I said it. The SEC has been really
I'm not
bad
saying.
this
I'm not
year.
saying I would.
No, that's why I'm
not
saying.
saying I
What's
would.
the
I'm
best
saying-
conference? I say ACC.
I would definitely not take the SEC. Absolutely not. I'm just saying that based on the rankings, there are 3 in the top 8 for the SEC.
Yeah, and the rest of them are all
Right, but that's
literal
it.
garbage.
Right, that's it.
So, I mean, somebody could reasonably be looking at that and say, ACC. Yes, you got Clemson, you got Miami, but come on.
I mean,
I'm not making that. I'm not making that.
Louisville's decent 8-4 team. NC State is a decent 8-4 team. Boston College and Wake Forest both finished at 7-5. Virginia Tech was all right, 9-3.
Well, I was going to say, like, I
They're
feel
just,
like you
very
brought up
solid
Virginia Tech
teams.
too late. I think
Yeah.
Virginia Tech was a pretty decent team
They're
this
probably
year.
the third best
So,
team.
yeah. And so that's what I'm saying is, like, when you're looking at these conferences, like, ACC is pretty good. I guess you could, what, were you going to throw Pac-12 in there?
No, I was going to
No.
go more
Who-
Big Ten because I think that.
Okay. Well, I would say I agree with you, the Big Ten not being the best, but I think Big Ten could be, you could put it up there as second best potentially.
Yeah,
But I
it's-
think with the most fun teams, the most talent, I feel like if you put ACC hypothetically up against Big Ten teams, ACC, if it was an ACC Big Ten challenge in football,
Right.
ACC would get those 8 wins that they
Yeah,
need to clinch it out easy.
For me, it's easy to say which conference is the worst this year. That's the Big Ten. It's much easier to say which one is the worst out of like the big powerhouse ones. But
I didn't think of that.
I can't definitively give you an answer as to which conference is the best. It's rather hard for me. I can see what Eli's saying, where the ACC can be the best one, and I can concede his argument there. I don't know if I would.
I'm thinking the Big Ten's the worst
Oh, yeah, I don't think it's the worst.
because
I don't know. I kind of do.
Really good. Ohio State was really good this year. Iowa had its moments.
The
of being
Big
very
12
good.
honestly
Michigan-
wasn't all that.
Michigan-
Well, yeah, okay, yeah. The Big
solid.
12 is probably
Michigan
the Big 12 is
State
probably the
was
worst.
really
Yeah.
good. Northwestern had 9 wins again. That's 6 or 7 teams that could end up in the final top 25.
Okay, yeah, that's
And they
fair.
beat
I would.
up against each other, which makes their overall records look a little worse.
Okay, yeah, I'll stand correct. I'll say the Big 12 is the worst one. Yeah,
Well, so
you're
the
absolutely right
ACC
about that.
what
But I
about-
would say that yes, I can't definitively say that the ACC is the best one. I can't definitively say that the SEC is the best one. It's really tough this year
Yeah, I
because
do
of
not
how
think-
all the chaos that's been going on.
Yeah, I agree. I
with
don't
this year
think
of college
I
football.
do not think SEC is near the.
I'd say the 4th.
I was going to say third or fourth, but yeah,
I'd say
And-
SEC 4th.
I would say
Pac-12
third,
5th,
yeah.
Pac-12 5th. I'd say Big Ten 2nd.
Which ones did you say were 1 and 2? I'm sorry.
I think ACC's 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Big Ten's 2. I think that Big 12 is 3. I think that SEC would be 4, and then Pac-12 is 5.
And I want to bring up these schools,
Okay.
because you did list off some of the schools that are in the ACC, right? But I mean, yeah, when you think about it, it's because I just brought up the list to like have a complete look at it, and you brought up Boston College, it was okay, but you have Clemson, you have NC State, who was good, you have Louisville, you have Miami, you have Notre Dame, who had a pretty good season. I mean, up until some of the big losses they had, but it's still a solid team.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, and then you have Wake Forest,
Yeah.
who was decent this year too,
And
right?
Virginia Tech, did you say that?
And then
already?
Virginia Tech is in there too, yeah. But I didn't say that one, but you're right, yeah. Virginia Tech's in there. So that's a very good conference,
Yeah.
I think. And that's why I just wanted to point that out when we were talking about it, because I think it's interesting to look at what conference is the best this year, and I think it would be the ACC.
When we get back to the college football playoff, though, I think that what we're going to see this weekend is, I think that Clemson and Oklahoma punch their tickets pretty much without a problem. I like both of those teams a lot. I think that they're the best 2 teams in college football. I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens in the SEC. because if for some reason Georgia wins, I think that Georgia would have to be in with one loss, even though it was a shellacking to Auburn. And so I do think that the winner of Auburn and Georgia gets in. So that'd be 3.
Do you think it depends on how Georgia beats Auburn at all?
No.
I don't
as long
either.
as they win.
Yeah,
As
I don't
long as
either.
they win. But it's that 4th spot. If Wisconsin somehow loses, and then you have a 1-loss Badgers team, and you have a 2-loss Buckeyes, and you have a 2-loss Trojans, Pac-12 champions, and you have a 1-loss Alabama. Based off experience with this college football playoff committee, I would not be surprised if Alabama gets in, and honestly, I'd be really mad because they've
just
only had one
Alabama.
loss.
I would be
but
too.
they're only putting them in because of the name brand. They're only putting them in because of Nick Saban. They're not looking at strength of schedule. They're
No.
not looking at quality wins. Ohio State has better quality wins than them. Wisconsin, you could argue, has better quality wins than Alabama. USC has better quality wins than Alabama as well. And Alabama has a good chance of making it in.
So let's go around here. What after this weekend? What is the top 4 going to look like, based on what the committee says? I'll start off. I think that the top 4 is going to finish as follows: Clemson, Auburn, Oklahoma, Alabama. So I think that Wisconsin's going to get booted by Ohio State, and then Alabama is going to go right back up. Obviously, I think Auburn's going to defeat Georgia. Clemson defeats Miami. Oklahoma defeats TCU. So that's my top 4: Clemson, Auburn, Oklahoma, Alabama. Alex, what do you say?
Ooh, I would say Clemson, not in any particular order, but I would say Clemson, Oklahoma. I don't know. I know Georgia got spanked by Auburn, but if they could pull off that victory,
Yes.
I would honestly, I could realistically see.
Are you predicting that?
I'm gonna do a hot take for once. I say Georgia gets in, and they beat Auburn, and they're in
Funny
there.
story. I agree with you completely.
You're right. Yeah, I would say Clemson, Oklahoma, Georgia, and I'll say Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm content with where it's at, and I think the craziness is hopefully over. And
So you think it's staying?
I think it stays. Except
Okay.
the only thing that I would switch personally, it would be that, and it probably wouldn't if Auburn was to beat Georgia. But the only thing that I would switch would be, Auburn should probably be in that 3 spot or
Right.
that 4 spot. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be number 2. But because I'd put Oklahoma in that, or well, it's going to be
Clemson, Oklahoma,
Clemson,
It should be
Oklahoma,
Clemson, Oklahoma
Auburn,
1 and 2.
Wisconsin. That's how I would put it. And so the only thing I could see switching could be Oklahoma moves to 2 and Auburn moves to 3. But I know where you're going to get at, which is with you say that Georgia, there's no way Auburn could beat the Georgia team twice. And that's what you've said that multiple times. I know that's what you're going to get at. But I think, you're coming off an Iron Bowl victory and you want to get in that so bad. I think Auburn's going to take it.
There's
going to
be no letdown. I agree. There's not going to be. Auburn's not going to look at Georgia and be like, oh, it's only Georgia. We got him in the bag.
So
You know
what's
what I
your
mean?
top 4 going to look like for you, Isaac?
TCU, Georgia.
TCU, Alabama.
Can you imagine that where you got
and
Ohio
Clemson,
State.
Auburn,
Yeah, right.
TCU, and USC in the top 4?
I really like Georgia this weekend a lot. I really like Georgia this
I feel like
weekend.
you've been saying that it feels weird because I feel like you've been saying it for weeks, even though there's no way you could possibly be doing that. But it just feels like you've been saying that there's no way Auburn can beat Georgia twice.
Because Georgia's running backs are so stinking good that I don't think that Auburn can really shut them down twice. And you stole the words right out of my mouth. So I think that Georgia beats Auburn and makes it in. I think that Wisconsin takes care of Ohio State this weekend. And then Clemson and Oklahoma.
That's not going to be easy, though.
Wait, so you got Georgia, Wisconsin,
Georgia, Wisconsin, Clemson, Oklahoma. Just like
Georgia, Wisconsin,
Yep.
Alabama, Oklahoma. All right.
Not Alabama.
Oh,
Clemson,
yeah. What
Oklahoma.
was the other one you said? I'm sorry.
Georgia, Wisconsin, Clemson,
Oklahoma. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really strange that it seems like all of us have different rankings going on, where that's how crazy this college football season has been, and I love it. Give me more of this next year.
Maybe
Is anyone
Illinois will
disagree?
be in next year. You never know.
They really need to
Prediction now.
expand
Illinois,
this playoff.
number 2, college football playoff.
Bennett Williams, MVP.
If I don't lose MVP this year.
Yeah, I think we should get into a much lengthier discussion on Tuesday as to how and why the college football playoff should be expanded. to 8 teams, 12 teams,
Because it'd
16,
be
whatever
more
it
fun.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. But we should get into that discussion on Tuesday. Why not? But for now, we'll take our final time out of the evening. When we get back, we'll do our roundtable segment. Coming up next on Illini Drive, WPGU 1071. 1071, brought to you by the Illinois Fighting Illini. For tickets and information on the Illini, visit fightingillini.com or call 1-866-Illini-1. Once again, fightingillini.com or call 1-866-Illini-1 for more ticket information. Before we get to the roundtable, Eli, you took Ozzy Osbourne, the pop figure Ozzy Osbourne, the Ozzy Osbourne pop figure that we have, off of your microphone. Why?
It's just, it wasn't working. It was weighing the microphone down. I feel like I needed it
He
up.
just needs to throw it to me. We'll play catch.
You mean literally it was weighing it down, or metaphorically?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, while they play hot potato over there with the Ozzy Osbourne pop figure, let's get to the roundtable segment. I'll start off. This is from Adam Wells of Bleacher Report. Josh Gordon dealt drugs. Estimates making $10,000 per month
Hang on,
as
I'm
a
going to
student
stop
at
you
Baylor.
right there.
What?
I am so excited for Josh Gordon to play this Sunday.
As am I, man.
I am
I'm-
sorry,
I'm
but
right there
you
with
can
you.
continue to. I love Josh Gordon. Sorry, keep going.
No, but this story says Cleveland Browns wide receiver Josh Gordon has admitted to dealing drugs during his college days at Baylor. In an interview with Ben Baskin of Sports Illustrated, Gordon said he would receive up to 6 pounds of marijuana each week through the mail, and estimated he made, quote, upward of $10,000, unquote, per month from selling it in cities around the state of Texas, including Dallas and Austin. Gordon did tell Baskin about an epiphany he had over the summer that has changed his perspective on things. He said, quote, if I was willing to go to any length to get a fix, he said, then at what point am I going to go to any length to get something positive for me? 26-year-old Gordon is eligible to play in his first game since 2014, Sunday's game against the Chargers, as Eli mentioned. He has been suspended from the NFL for the
How
past
good
2 years.
he was. Do we know how good he was? He was on the Browns, and he made like Brandon Whedon
Look
and
amazing.
Look so good.
For the past 2 years,
70.
due to multiple violations of the league's substance abuse policy. Yeah, I am excited.
2014, wow.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him play again. I don't know what he's going to look like. That's part of the intrigue. But this story itself, I'm just thinking $10,000 a month for selling pot. How often do you think that happens around college campuses?
Making bank.
Like where people, maybe not $10,000,
Well, I wouldn't know,
but let's
but-
say.
It sounds like a lot of money.
I really
so.
don't know.
Nothing that you want to admit to.
All right, do you guys want to admit to anything? Any secrets?
Nah, I don't.
No, but
I got
seriously,
nothing.
I don't know.
I got nothing to hide.
It is nuts, but but sticking on the point of it, just like.
Does it
I'm just surprised that he was
Does it
open and
shock
honest
me?
about it.
Does it shock me? No. The thing that shocks me
Not
the
at
most
all.
was that he got away with it for so long.
Yeah.
Right.
That kind of.
But I think what's really
Like,
interesting,
had they
the more the
found that
story
out?
for me,
Oh.
because everybody knew he had his drug issues,
Yeah.
and this isn't
Yeah.
surprising. This isn't breaking news. This is nothing. This is not that surprising. But what is the story here is how's he going to look after not being able to play for since 2014 in the NFL? How's the guy going to look? And it's going to be really interesting, I think, to watch him play and see how things go, because I do think he was super talented, and a lot of it was natural talent. But I mean, when you're out of the game for that long, it'll definitely be interesting to see how. A lot of people are jumping on his bandwagon right away again, and I admit that I'm a part of that, just because I mean the reason I loved him so much was he was on my fantasy team back in the day. And it was
Right.
so fun, but I just also
He was
loved,
on mine too.
I also loved watching him play. Like he was fun.
He's an electric player.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just
Top
shocked
5
how
wide receiver
open.
when he's healthy.
oh yeah.
I was just shocked how open and honest he was about it, because how many guys can you name, especially when
Well,
they're
it
coming
shows
back
how
into the
much
league that are
it
willing
shows
to
how
admit
much
things like that.
I mean, he's supposed to be clean now. He's supposed to be completely a new kind of guy.
Yeah, he gets
after
caught again,
everything
he's
he's
done.
gone
I
to.
hope
so.
to God he
And
is.
I hope so for his career's sake too. But I think he's supposed
For
to be a
the
new
Browns'
guy,
sake,
and
too.
just by him sharing this information,
To get the
it
one win.
shows you how he's kind of a changed guy. So that's good.
I wonder how Ori feels about this. I should ask him about it. I haven't talked to
The
him.
Browns get a win this year.
Or
It'll
isn't
be
it
because
nothing
of
about
Josh
the
Gordon.
It's going to be
You hear
against
that,
the
Ori?
Bears.
You know nothing about the Browns.
Tell you what. If,
You thought Gary Barnes was still on your team.
yeah. Yeah.
You're so- Thank you, Eli.
I tell you what, I think that you could look at the Browns being a pretty solid team if Josh Gordon can get it back to a little bit of what he was, mixing in with Corey Coleman, Is Deshaun Kaiser the answer at quarterback? Probably not, but I think that they could go out and get a serviceable
I
quarterback.
mean, they got a
next
good
year.
offensive line. They got
Darnold.
defensive
Listen,
players.
Look at that first pick of the draft. If they go out and get Darnold or Rosen, right? And
But Darnold doesn't want to be on their team. He's going to avoid the draft.
At 7, Saquon Barkley might drop to them. So then you're talking about adding those
Trent
type of
Richardson.
player. Oh, God.
Don't they potentially have 2 top 5 picks?
Jeez, Trent
It's one
Richardson.
seven
Wow.
right now, I think. So because they got
It's
one
7.
from Houston.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like 7.
Yeah, they have the
as of
first
right
5 picks.
Yeah. Okay. right.
They'll still be.
They'll still be
They'll
0
be
16.
Don't
Still
worry.
be there.
Right.
Yeah, don't worry.
Like that, their defense this year has shown glimpses of being solid. Gordon is an elite type of player. Corey Coleman has played very well in the time that he's played there at wide receiver. They have some weapons.
No, they got weapons. They just need a quarterback.
Once
They
you
need a quarterback.
Because
yeah,
Deshaun
once you get
Kaiser-
someone there, you're
The thing with
you maybe set.
Kaiser for me is just he can't really throw the ball that well. It doesn't look like.
I think that's
Oh,
bad
he
if you
can
want to be
throw
a
the
quarterback.
Well, that's the thing, but
just
it's
not to the right team.
Yeah, exactly.
But Isaac, what do you got for us this week?
Yeah, my roundtable segment this week is just talking about the 4 transfers that Illinois had: Gabe Meganson, Trey Watson, Patrick Nelson, Tito Odenigbo, and actually it was a 5th one because our backup punter also transferred. So I think that what you're seeing,
Excuse me.
How dare he?
what you're seeing though, is Lovie Smith. It's a purge, and that's kind of what it is right now. Lovie Smith is playing his guys, and he's brushing the other ones out the door. And I think in those exit meetings that you always have with every single coach after a season, there was probably a little nudging, and
Yeah.
there was some brutal honesty that was made clear to some of these guys that, hey, unfortunately, we like you as a player, but we don't see a bunch of time for you. Bennett Williams and Stanley Green are our future at safety. We got guys coming in that can also play safety.
We all
Sorry,
knew
Pat
this was going to
Nelson.
happen. You know, that at least like to some extent,
Pat
some players
Nelson-
were going
Pat
to leave.
Nelson's surprised me the most. Now, there was a sideline incident with Pat Nelson and Lovie Smith that kind of wasn't good during
Yeah.
the Northwestern game. That's an issue. Trey Watson didn't surprise me at all. I saw that one coming from a mile away. Gabe Meganson didn't surprise me at all either. And neither did Tito Odenigbo. But Nelson's a guy that I didn't quite see leaving. And it kind of
Which
hurts a
one
little
do you
bit.
think they'll miss more? Or miss the most, I should say.
Nelson, by far.
Okay.
Because Watson was an under average Big Ten linebacker, especially in his ability to cover. That was a problem for him. A great blitzer, but other than that, he was not very solid. Nelson is a very good rotational piece at safety, and safety next year is not going to be very deep. And when safety next year is not going to be deep, and you're only relying on Bennett Williams and Stanley Green, I mean, we can't rely on Stanley Green to stay in a game with these targeting penalties. So I think that Nelson is a guy that would have played a lot next year that we're going to miss. And he's a high character guy, and he's a great guy to have in that locker room. And I really enjoyed all my interactions with Pat Nelson. He'll be missed dearly.
Eli, what do you have for us?
I wanted to bring up this is not like any written story, but it's just the overall idea that the Oklahoma City Thunder this season, I feel like have been underwhelming with such a good team. And they have Westbrook, and they had a video of Westbrook after the game that they lost against the Magic, where he was just sitting there just after the game. Everyone was heading out, but he was just sitting in his chair, just kind of shocked with how the performance of this team has been so far. And, you have Carmelo, you have Paul George, and you have Westbrook, and you're an 8-12 team right now.
Alex and I spoke about this on Tuesday, especially after their winning over Golden State.
Well, they're
How
winning
good they
against Golden
looked
State,
against the
and then
Warriors.
what do they do after they win against Golden State? They lose to, well, the Pistons are a good team. So Pistons 99-98, that was a good game. But they lose to the Mavericks 97-81, and then they lose to
Second
the
worst team in the
Magic
league.
121-108. So, and then now they're going to play the Timberwolves tomorrow, which is going to be hard. They play the Spurs, they've already lost. They play the Jazz, which is not going to be an easy game
They'll beat the
necessarily.
Jazz.
But the Jazz recently have looked okay.
Yeah.
But then they play the Nets, which they should win, and they play the Grizzlies. So it goes on and on. But this season has just been so inconsistent, and when you look at the schedule, I don't see the inconsistencies changing anytime soon with the type of schedule they have. And I'm just shocked by it, because I thought this team would mesh a little bit better. I was a little concerned just because I didn't know how Westbrook and especially Paul George would kind of work together. I mean, Carmelo, I was like, I think Carmelo's ready to go and just kind of be a team player because of, the Knicks.
Except they're not treating him like a team
No,
player.
they're not. And I think with Paul George and Westbrook actually look okay, but Carmelo seems to be, they're not meshing as well as they could have. And it's again still early in the season, but 8-12 is a little concerning.
They're
They've
treating
never-
Carmelo like a third star, and he's not. Needs to be
well,
a
I forgot to mention on Tuesday that when Oklahoma City plays the way that they did against the Warriors, they can beat anybody. But the problem is that they knocked down a bunch of threes, especially from George and Anthony. Anthony can do it. George
Everyone was
George got
hot-headed in
better.
that game too, though.
Yeah, everyone
was
got
very
hot in
They
the
can't
game.
do it if they don't make it to the playoffs.
Alex, what do you have for us?
Oh, the firing of David Fizdale.
Oh yeah.
That was
Yeah, Memphis.
that was stupid. That was just stupid. I don't know why.
It was that
That was just-
LeBron and Wade. They
Literally, like everybody
got
in
it.
the NBA just got like mad.
Are the Bulls looking for somebody?
Man, hey, there's right, David
That's
Fizdale.
actually
I like
a
it.
great
I like
idea.
to pick
That's
up.
a great idea. Yeah, right.
Honestly,
I
I
love
don't
that
get
hire.
right. Get rid of Hoiberg. Pick
Plenty
up
of colleges
Fizdale.
right now I'm sure would take Hoiberg back.
What do
Yeah.
you think? Where do you think he's going in the last minute that we have here? Where do you think he's going to end up next, Fizdale? Think he's going to go back to Miami, or is he
Nope.
going to get another head coaching job
He's gonna
somewhere?
go coach Tennessee.
Tennessee.
The Vols need it.
They need a football coach.
They need a football coach. Yeah, football, not basketball. Sorry. they got nobody coming there. Nobody's going.
Since Fizdale's so close with LeBron, he's going to end up at Cleveland. They're going to fire Ty Lue. That's my
Think so?
Yeah.
I think
I could.
I
Well,
just-
that's not as far fetched as
He'll
it
end
sounds.
up, he'll
but,
end up
yeah.
somewhere. I would love for the Bulls to pick him up, but he'll
Honestly,
end
though,
up
Tennessee,
somewhere.
real quick, Tennessee shout out. Just wanted to recommend a coach for you. Bill Cubit is out there.
Beckman.
He resigned.
Beckman and
Bill
Cubit.
Cubit
Beckman.
resigned.
Alex
Anthony Beckman.
I can't believe it. We were
Bill
remiss and we
Cubit-
didn't speak about this week.
Well,
this
Bill
was a big
Cubit
story.
resigned from his high school football team
He's ready.
because he's ready to pick up another college gig.
He's ready to
Tennessee,
go.
you've already talked to people who are just not.
Talked to 12 people.
Yeah.
They turned you all down.
And these people aren't winning part of winning programs. So Bill Cubit is your guy.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna
Character
get,
guy. High quality. Great raspy voice.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to get out of here. We thank you for listening to Illini Drive on WPG 1071. For Isaac Trotter, Eli Schuster, Alex Aguilera, I'm Luke Sciaccotta saying thank you for listening. Be sure to tune into us on Monday where Ori and the crew take over, and on Tuesday where we take over. So we thank you for listening and have a great night. And this has been Illini Drive on WPGU 1071.